The moving truck had barely left when I stepped onto the porch of my new home, a modest two-story nestled among the lush greenery of Portland's suburban charm. The air was crisp, filled with the scent of blooming roses from the nearby International Rose Test Garden. I had longed for this fresh start, but as I looked around, the weight of solitude settled heavily on my shoulders. Boxes lay scattered in disarray around me, remnants of a life packed away and transported to this new chapter. I had traded the familiar for the unknown, hoping to escape the growing emptiness that had seeped into my marriage. My husband was busy with work, often lost in his own world while I felt increasingly invisible. As I wandered through the house, memories of laughter and warmth faded into echoes of silence. I decided to explore my surroundings, seeking connection in this unfamiliar neighborhood. The local cafe buzzed with chatter and laughter, a stark contrast to my own quiet existence. I ordered a coffee and sat by the window, watching people pass by. Their joy felt foreign to me, like a distant melody that no longer resonated within. As I walked back home, an invitation fluttered in the breeze, a colorful flyer announcing a local festival celebrating spring. A pang of nostalgia hit me. Festivals had once been a source of joy in my life. But now, they seemed like reminders of what I was missing. Just as doubt began to creep in again, a voice broke through my thoughts. Need any help with that? A man stood at the edge of my yard, his hands tucked casually into his pockets. He was tall and friendly-looking, with an easy smile that seemed genuine. I glanced at the overgrown garden that had been neglected for years. I replied hesitantly. He introduced himself as my neighbor from next door and offered assistance with gardening, something he enjoyed doing in his spare time. It was an unexpected proposal that stirred something within me, a sense of purpose amidst my lingering loneliness. We spent hours working side by side over the next few days. The sun warmed our backs as we pulled weeds and planted new flowers. With every shared laugh and casual conversation about our lives, something shifted beneath the surface, a connection began to blossom where there once had been only isolation. Yet guilt lingered like an unwelcome shadow. Each time he smiled at me or our hands brushed against each other while reaching for tools, I felt a mix of exhilaration and trepidation. Was it right to find comfort in someone else's presence when my own marriage felt so hollow? One warm afternoon while we took a break under the shade of an old oak tree, he opened up about his own experiences, his recent divorce and how he had moved here seeking solace from heartbreak. Listening to him made me reflect on my own choices. Years spent prioritizing stability over passion seemed like a lifetime ago. As dusk approached one evening after another long day in the garden, he leaned closer and kissed me softly under fading sunlight, a moment charged with unspoken emotions. Time stood still until a sudden rustle in the bushes jolted us back to reality. What was that? My heart raced as panic set in, guilt surged anew at what we'd just shared. I don't know, he whispered back nervously. Before we could gather ourselves fully from our momentary lapse into intimacy, uncertainty loomed large between us like a thick fog rolling off the nearby Willamette River. In those fleeting seconds before retreating into our separate lives once more, I couldn't shake off thoughts about where this path might lead us both, toward deeper connections or further entanglement in secrets best left unspoken. The sound of rustling leaves broke the silence, jolting us back to reality. I glanced around, heart racing, as if we had been caught in a crime. The warmth of the sun still lingered on my skin, but the moment felt too fragile to hold on to. My neighbor's eyes searched mine for reassurance, and I could sense the weight of our secret pressing down on us. What was that? He whispered, his voice barely above a murmur. I shrugged, attempting to shake off the tension that had suddenly enveloped us. Just the wind, I replied, though my instincts told me otherwise. The garden we had been tending together felt like an oasis of calm amidst the chaos brewing within me. We both stood up quickly, brushing dirt from our hands, as if that could erase what had just happened between us. The kiss lingered in my mind like a sweet ache, but guilt gnawed at me relentlessly. I couldn't help but think of my husband and the life we had built together, a life that now seemed distant and hollow. "Maybe we should take a break for today," he suggested, his tone shifting from playful to serious. "I don't want to put you in a difficult position." I nodded slowly, feeling an unexpected pang at the thought of not seeing him for a while. We had forged an unusual bond through shared moments in the garden and quiet conversations over coffee. Each laugh exchanged felt like a step toward something deeper, something I was both drawn to and terrified of. "Yeah, maybe," I said softly, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. As he turned to leave, I felt a mix of longing and regret wash over me. The door to this new chapter in my life was slightly ajar. All it would take was one more push to walk through it completely. But with each passing day, the weight of my choices grew heavier. Later that evening, sitting alone in my cozy living room surrounded by unpacked boxes and memories yet to be created, thoughts swirled in my mind like autumn leaves caught in a whirlwind. The mundane sounds of the neighborhood filtered through the open window, children playing outside and laughter echoing down the street, while I sat trapped in an internal struggle. The phone buzzed beside me, a message from him. My heart skipped as I reached for it instinctively. Curiosity mixed with trepidation filled me as I opened it. "Hope you're okay after today. Let's talk soon." My fingers hovered over the screen before typing back a simple reply, "Yes." It felt inadequate but safe, a bridge across our growing distance without revealing too much. The next few days passed with an unsettling mix of anticipation and anxiety. Each time I stepped into my garden, memories flooded back, the warmth of his hand brushing against mine as we worked together or our laughter mingling with the scent of freshly turned soil. Yet every moment was tinged with guilt as I reflected on my marriage. When we finally met again under the pretense of gardening tasks, there was an unspoken tension between us, an electric charge that seemed to pulse through the air. We spent hours planting flowers and sharing stories about our lives before this suburban existence consumed us both. "I used to think marriage meant forever," he said quietly as we knelt side by side among newly planted petunias. "But sometimes it feels more like being trapped than loved." His words struck a chord within me. They echoed feelings I'd kept buried for far too long. "I understand," I admitted softly, glancing at him sideways. "Sometimes it's hard to see where love ends and obligation begins." Our eyes met briefly before darting away again. Vulnerability hung thick between us like morning fog clinging to trees at dawn. As sunset painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, something shifted inside me, a longing so profound that it overshadowed everything else. Without thinking, I leaned closer until our lips met, a soft collision that ignited sparks deep within me. Just as quickly as it began, a loud crash shattered our moment. An old wooden gate swinging wildly against its post nearby sent us both sprawling backward onto the grass in shock. "What was that?" he gasped breathlessly as we scrambled up from where we'd fallen. "I don't know." Panic surged through me like ice water coursing down my spine. Fear gripped my heart tightly as reality crashed back into focus around us. "Maybe someone's nearby," he suggested cautiously while scanning our surroundings with furrowed brows. A knot formed in my stomach at his words. What if someone did see? What would they think? Would they tell? My mind raced with possibilities, each one darker than the last, as dread settled heavily upon me. "We should probably go inside," he urged gently but firmly after scanning our surroundings once more for any signs of intrusion or prying eyes lingering nearby. Reluctantly nodding in agreement despite wanting nothing more than to linger in this surreal moment just a bit longer, lost somewhere between fear and desire, I turned toward home feeling hollow yet alive all at once. That night's sleep eluded me entirely. Thoughts spiraled endlessly while shadows danced across walls illuminated by streetlights filtering through curtains drawn tightly closed against prying eyes outside. In those sleepless hours filled only with echoes from earlier moments shared under fading sunlight, the warmth lingering on skin long after parting, I knew deep down this wasn't merely an affair rooted solely in physical attraction anymore. Something more profound lay beneath everything unfolding between us, something worth risking everything for? But could such risks ever lead anywhere other than heartbreak? As dawn broke over Portland's skyline, painting everything anew once again outside my window, I found myself staring blankly ahead, wondering what tomorrow might bring. The morning light filtered through the curtains, casting soft shadows across the room. I sat on the edge of my bed, contemplating the choices I had made. The garden outside was alive with color, yet a sense of emptiness lingered within me. My thoughts drifted to him, the neighbor who had become my confidant, the one who had filled my days with laughter and warmth. As I prepared for another day, I couldn't shake off the weight of our last encounter. Our lips met under that sun-dappled sky, a moment suspended in time that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. The thrill of it all clashed with the guilt gnawing at my conscience. What was I doing? Was this just a fleeting escape from my reality? I decided to take a walk around the neighborhood, hoping to clear my mind. The familiar sounds of Portland greeted me, children laughing, dogs barking, and the distant hum of traffic. Each step felt heavier than the last as I passed homes filled with families, their lives intertwined in ways mine no longer was. Arriving at the local cafe, I ordered a coffee and took a seat by the window. The barista smiled warmly at me as she handed over my drink. "You look deep in thought," she said lightly. "Just trying to figure things out," I replied with a faint smile. "Don't we all?" she chuckled before moving on to serve other customers. Sipping my coffee, I watched people go about their lives, couples holding hands, friends sharing stories. A pang of longing struck me as I thought about my own marriage. It had once been vibrant but now felt stagnant and unfulfilling. My husband's indifference weighed heavily on me. He seemed lost in his world while I drifted further into mine. The door swung open, and he walked in, my neighbor. He spotted me immediately and waved before making his way over. My heart raced at his presence. It was both comforting and disconcerting. "Mind if I join you?" he asked casually. "Not at all," I replied, trying to maintain composure. The conversation flowed easily between us as we discussed everything from local events to our favorite books. Yet beneath the surface lay an undercurrent of tension, a shared understanding that something deeper lingered just out of reach. "I've been thinking about our last gardening session," he said after a moment's pause. "It's nice having someone to share it with." I nodded, recalling how we had worked side by side, planting flowers and sharing snippets of our lives. It had felt so natural then, so right amidst everything else that felt wrong. "I enjoy it too," I admitted softly, feeling vulnerable under his gaze. "It's been refreshing." His eyes locked onto mine, holding an intensity that sent shivers down my spine. "You know you can trust me with anything," he said gently. Trust, a fragile concept that seemed so elusive now. The walls around my heart were high. Could I let someone breach them? "I appreciate that," I murmured, unsure how much more honesty I could afford myself or him. We fell into silence for a moment as we both sipped our drinks thoughtfully. Then he leaned closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret meant only for me. "I don't want this to be just a passing thing." My breath caught in my throat at his words. They hung between us like an unspoken promise or perhaps an unacknowledged threat. "I don't either," I whispered back before quickly looking away out the window as if seeking solace in the bustling street outside. But instead of clarity came confusion, a knot tightening within me as conflicting emotions churned inside like storm clouds gathering before rain. After finishing our coffees, we stepped outside together into the crisp air filled with autumn scents, the earthy smell of fallen leaves mixed with hints of wood smoke from nearby chimneys. "Want to take a walk through the park?" he suggested casually. I hesitated for just a heartbeat but then nodded. Part of me craved this connection while another part screamed for caution. As we strolled through the park hand in hand, his touch igniting sparks against my skin, I couldn't help but feel alive again amidst all this chaos swirling around us like autumn leaves caught in wind gusts. Yet beneath this newfound exhilaration lay uncertainty. What would happen when reality encroached upon our little bubble? A sudden rustle nearby made us both jump slightly, a squirrel darting across our path, but it jolted me back into awareness like cold water splashed onto skin after too long spent basking in warmth. "Everything okay?" he asked when he noticed my sudden tension shift back toward anxiety rather than joyfulness from moments before. "I'm fine," I assured him, though my voice lacked conviction even to myself. We continued walking until we reached an abandoned house on the outskirts, a place long forgotten by time yet still held stories within its crumbling walls and faded paintwork peeling away like layers shielding secrets too heavy for sunlight exposure anymore. "This place has character," he remarked lightly while glancing up at its dilapidated facade adorned with creeping vines reclaiming what was once theirs long ago, but something about it felt eerily familiar too. "It reminds me of," my voice trailed off as memories flooded back, of laughter shared during summer nights spent exploring forgotten corners together before life pulled us apart again. Before responsibilities swallowed dreams whole, leaving nothing but shadows behind where brightness once thrived. Before anything else could be said or done, though, a figure emerged from behind nearby bushes, catching both our attention, abruptly breaking whatever spell had formed around us moments earlier. Panic surged through me at first sight, the unmistakable silhouette unmistakably belonging to someone who should not have been there, watching silently as if waiting for something pivotal about unfold next. "What do you think they want?" he muttered lowly, glancing sideways toward where they stood motionless, still hidden, partially obscured by foliage surrounding them, casting long shadows across ground beneath feet. My heart raced faster, now pounding against chest, echoing loudly enough even amidst silence surrounding us, breaking tension building steadily between ourselves ever since first kiss shared weeks ago. Would this be where everything changed forever? The afternoon sun filtered through the leaves, casting a dappled light on the ground as we stood in silence. I could feel the weight of his gaze, a mixture of concern and curiosity. The tension between us was palpable, thickening the air around us. I had longed for this connection, yet now it felt like a fragile thread, ready to snap at any moment. "What if they saw us?" I whispered, my voice barely breaking the stillness. My heart raced at the thought of being caught. The thrill of our secret was intoxicating, but the fear of exposure loomed larger than ever. "They won't," he replied softly, his eyes steady and reassuring. "This place is forgotten by most. No one comes here." I wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at me. The abandoned house loomed behind us, its cracked windows and peeling paint whispering stories of neglect and lost dreams. It had become our sanctuary, a place where we could escape the world outside and explore what lay between us. As we stepped closer to each other, I felt an urge to confide more about my life, my marriage that felt like a distant memory, and the loneliness that crept in during quiet moments. "Sometimes I wonder if it's worth it," I said, my voice trembling slightly. He turned to face me fully, concern etched on his features. "What do you mean?" "My husband, he's been so distant lately," I admitted. "I don't know how to reach him anymore." "Maybe he's just caught up in his own world," he suggested gently. "You deserve someone who sees you." A lump formed in my throat as his words sank in. It felt good to be understood, even if just for a moment. We stood there in silence again until he broke it with a sudden thought that struck me as surprising. "Did you know your husband has been spending time with someone else?" The words hit me like a punch to the gut. My breath caught in my throat as confusion washed over me. "What do you mean?" "I've seen him around town with another woman," he said cautiously. My mind raced with images of my husband laughing with someone else while I sat alone at home wondering where it all went wrong. A wave of anger mixed with sadness surged through me as I struggled to process this revelation. "Are you sure?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I wouldn't say anything if I wasn't," he replied earnestly. The truth hung heavy between us, and for a moment, all thoughts of our secret relationship faded into the background as reality crashed down around me. Could this be why he had been so distant? Was there someone else filling the void that had grown between us? "I need some air," I blurted out suddenly, turning away from him and stepping outside into the fading sunlight. He followed closely behind me but maintained a respectful distance as we walked along the overgrown path leading away from the house. The weight of unspoken words filled every step we took together. There was comfort in our shared silence, yet an undeniable tension simmered beneath it all. Eventually, we settled on an old wooden bench hidden beneath sprawling branches that provided just enough shade from the sun's rays. As we sat side by side, my thoughts spiraled into chaos, my marriage unraveling while simultaneously becoming entwined with someone new. "I never intended for things to go this far," I confessed finally after what felt like hours of contemplation. "I know," he replied softly without judgment in his tone. "But sometimes life takes unexpected turns." His words resonated deeply within me, a reminder that perhaps embracing change was necessary for growth even if it came wrapped in uncertainty. We spent hours talking about everything and nothing at all, our hopes for the future mingled with regrets from our pasts until darkness began creeping into our surroundings like shadows playing tricks on our minds. Without realizing how much time had passed or how close we had become during those conversations under starlit skies filled with possibilities, an overwhelming urge seized me, one fueled by emotions too complex yet too beautiful not to explore further together despite lingering doubts about what lay ahead. In that moment, under twinkling stars suspended above us amidst whispers carried by gentle breezes, we spent the night together, lost in conversation until sleep finally claimed us both as dawn approached, slowly illuminating everything around us anew, including feelings once buried deep inside hearts now open wide enough for vulnerability to emerge freely without fear or shame weighing heavily upon them anymore. Morning light filtered through branches overhead when I stirred awake next to him, feeling warmth radiating from his body beside mine. Memories flooded back, of laughter shared late into night mixed with confessions exchanged under watchful eyes belonging only stars above who bore witness silently throughout everything unfolding between two souls seeking solace amidst chaos surrounding them both. Yet reality came crashing back quickly once again when thoughts returned inevitably toward unresolved issues waiting patiently back home, the husband whose presence lingered like an unwelcome ghost haunting corners left untouched long ago. Before leaving that morning, a conversation lingered on my lips, yearning release but held back by uncertainty regarding what lay ahead. "We should talk more about." But before finishing, I caught sight of something out of place across yard nearby, a familiar car parked just beyond bushes bordering property line nearby. Recognition washed over me instantly, sending chills down spine, reminding me exactly whom it belonged to. The very man whose absence weighed heavily upon heart now filled instead with newfound desires ignited unexpectedly within unexpected circumstances, unfolding rapidly before eyes wide open, finally seeing clearly everything surrounding life. Choices made thus far. Panic surged through veins racing wildly alongside heart pounding loudly against chest, echoing fears previously buried deep down below surface, threatening escape once again, threatening unraveling everything built carefully over time spent together, already fostering connection stronger than anticipated yet fragile enough break easily when faced head-on, consequences looming large ahead. The tension in the air thickened as I stood frozen, staring at the car parked just beyond the bushes. The familiar contours of the vehicle sent a wave of dread crashing over me. My heart raced, each beat echoing the anxiety swirling in my mind. I had hoped for a moment of escape, a reprieve from the chaos of my life, but now it felt as if that hope was slipping through my fingers like sand. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting long shadows that danced across the yard. Was it too late to turn back? I glanced at the abandoned house, its weathered facade standing silently against the backdrop of my internal turmoil. A place meant for secrets and stolen moments now felt like a trap. The text from my neighbor lingered in my mind, urging me to meet him. I had been so close to making a decision about our relationship, about what I truly wanted. But with my husband's unexpected arrival looming over me, clarity was becoming increasingly elusive. "Are you okay?" The voice broke through my thoughts, pulling me back to reality. I turned slowly to see my husband stepping out of his car, an expression of concern etched on his face. His eyes searched mine for answers I wasn't ready to provide. "Yeah, just looking around," I replied, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than genuine warmth. He walked closer, his brow furrowing as he noticed my unease. "I thought we could have dinner together tonight," he suggested casually. "Just us. It's been a while." His attempt at intimacy caught me off guard. It was as if he sensed something was amiss but couldn't quite grasp what it was. "Sure," I managed to say, even though dread pooled in my stomach at the thought of sharing a meal while harboring secrets that could unravel everything between us. As we walked back to our home side by side, an uncomfortable silence enveloped us like a heavy blanket. Memories of our past floated through my mind, moments filled with laughter and connection, but they felt distant now. My heart tugged toward someone else entirely. Dinner unfolded in an awkward rhythm. We exchanged polite conversation while tension simmered beneath the surface. Each bite felt heavier than the last as guilt gnawed at me relentlessly. My husband spoke about work and upcoming projects, but his words faded into background noise as I battled with thoughts of another life, one where I didn't feel so isolated. "What's on your mind?" he asked suddenly, catching me off guard again. His gaze pierced through me with unexpected intensity. "Nothing really," I replied too quickly, panic rising within me as I fought against revealing anything more than necessary. "Just tired from moving." He nodded slowly but didn't seem convinced. "You've been distant lately," he said softly. "Is everything okay?" A lump formed in my throat at his words. How could I explain that everything felt wrong without tearing apart what little stability we had left? Instead of answering directly, I deflected with questions about his day and tried to redirect his attention away from my inner turmoil. After dinner, we settled into an uneasy silence on the couch, a stark contrast to how things used to be between us when laughter filled every corner of our home. My phone buzzed on the table beside me. Instinctively glancing down revealed another message from him, the neighbor, inviting me out for a walk under the stars later that evening. My breath caught in my throat as conflicting emotions surged within me. Desire clashed with guilt and fear all at once. How could I possibly step outside into that world knowing what awaited? Yet there was also an undeniable pull toward him, a pull that seemed stronger than any sense of obligation or loyalty. "I'll be right back," I said abruptly, rising from the couch before he could question further. The urgency propelled me toward our bedroom where I could collect myself away from prying eyes and probing questions. Once inside, I closed the door behind me and leaned against it for support as uncertainty washed over me again like waves crashing against rocks, relentless and unyielding. The phone buzzed again. This time it felt like an electric jolt igniting something deep within, a reminder of what lay beyond these walls. I picked up the device hesitantly and read his message, "Meet me at our spot? Just us tonight." A simple request yet layered with meaning that sent shivers down my spine. But before making any decisions about meeting him or staying put with everything familiar yet suffocating around me, I heard footsteps approaching outside followed by soft knocks on our bedroom door. "Hey," came my husband's voice again, this time tinged with concern mixed with curiosity. "Are you all right?" Panic gripped me tightly. How much longer could I hide this growing rift between us? How many more nights would be spent pretending everything was fine? "I'm fine. Just needed some air," I called back weakly while trying to suppress thoughts racing through my mind about choices made, and choices still ahead waiting patiently for their moment under bright stars illuminating paths untaken. After several moments passed without response from him outside, I finally summoned courage enough to open door slightly, just enough so he could see half of face peeking through crack barely wide enough allow entrance into room filled only with uncertainty lingering thickly around us both now standing shoulder to shoulder facing each other. Once more. His expression softened slightly upon seeing me standing there looking lost yet hopeful simultaneously. A mixture of emotions swirling together creating tension palpable enough cut through silence hanging heavy between us still unresolved lingering questions left unanswered previously now pressing urgently forward demanding acknowledgement. "Can we talk?" he asked gently this time breaking silence finally allowing space breathe again filling void created earlier by unspoken truths lingering within heart's yearning connection yet struggling find footing amidst chaos surrounding lives intertwined tightly together already, long since established. Before answering however, I hesitated briefly glancing down at phone resting nearby reminding me once more about invitation awaiting response patiently resting there still glowing softly beckoning towards unknown possibilities lying ahead waiting patiently just beyond reach. With every passing second feeling weightier than last, I knew decisions loomed larger than ever before needing resolution soon before consequences spiraled out control leaving behind only echoes memories fading fast into darkness creeping ever closer threatening engulf entire world built carefully over years, spent together. Yet all remained unresolved until finally mustering strength enough speak up first breaking silence surrounding us both lingering heavily filling empty spaces left behind longing fulfilled spark ignited anew. "I think we need to talk," came words tumbling forth almost involuntarily escaping lips before realizing full extent implications carried alongside them reverberating loudly throughout small room enclosing both bodies standing close now facing one another fully aware stakes raised higher than ever imagined possible moments prior. As realization settled heavily upon shoulders bearing burdens far greater than anticipated. The night stretched onward holding promise uncertainty lurking just beneath surface waiting patiently poised ready strike when least expected catching unaware those caught unaware navigating treacherous waters ahead uncertain paths unfolding rapidly leading somewhere unforeseen entirely different destination altogether perhaps forever altering course lives intertwined already deeply connected yet fragile. Enough break easily once confronted head-on consequences looming large ahead threatening unravel everything built carefully over time spent together fostering connection stronger than anticipated yet equally fragile enough shatter completely if faced directly, without caution taken beforehand. The air hung thick with unspoken words, and as I stood there, the weight of my choices pressed heavily upon me. My heart raced as I glanced at the neighbor, his expression a mix of concern and longing. The abandoned house loomed behind us, its walls whispering secrets of the past. "I didn't think we'd get caught," he said quietly, breaking the silence that stretched between us like a taut wire. I swallowed hard, my mind racing with thoughts of my husband and the life I had built. "Neither did I replied, my voice barely above a whisper. The thrill of our secret meetings had turned into an unbearable tension, and the thrill was now tinged with fear. We stepped back from each other instinctively, as if the distance could shield us from the reality that had just crashed into our world. The thrill of our clandestine connection had morphed into something more complicated, something that felt like it could unravel everything in an instant. "I think we need to talk," he said cautiously, searching my eyes for understanding. "About what?" I asked, though deep down, I knew what he meant. The air crackled with unresolved emotions, and every moment felt like a countdown to something inevitable. "About us," he replied softly. "And about what happens next." As we stood there in the dim light filtering through broken windows, memories flooded my mind, moments spent gardening together under the sun's warm embrace, shared laughter over coffee at the local cafe. Those moments felt like they belonged to another life now, one that seemed increasingly distant from this tangled web we had woven. "I can't keep living like this," I admitted finally. "The secrecy is suffocating." His expression shifted slightly as he took a step closer again. "Then let's figure it out together." But even as he spoke those words that promised hope and clarity, doubt gnawed at me from within. My husband had been trying harder lately, his small gestures of affection were becoming more frequent. Was it enough to make me forget? Was it enough to justify what was happening here? A rustle outside broke our momentary bubble of intimacy. My heart skipped a beat as I glanced toward the doorway where shadows danced ominously against the fading light. We should go, I urged, panic rising in my chest. Wait. He reached for my hand but hesitated before touching me again. Let's not end this without talking about everything. I hesitated but nodded slowly, knowing deep down that avoiding this conversation would only prolong our agony. What do you want? He asked earnestly. The question hung in the air like a fragile glass ornament ready to shatter at any moment. What did I want? A part of me craved freedom, a release from the confines of expectations and responsibilities that weighed heavily on my soul. But another part clung desperately to familiarity, the comfort of a life built with someone who knew me inside out. I don't know, I confessed finally. He nodded as if he understood but didn't press further. Instead, he took a deep breath and continued speaking softly, there's something you should see. Curiosity flickered within me despite my apprehension. What do you mean? He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small piece of folded paper, a letter worn around the edges but clearly significant to him. I found this while cleaning up some things, he said hesitantly before handing it over to me. As I unfolded it carefully, recognition washed over me, a letter from years ago that spoke of dreams unfulfilled and love lost amidst life's chaos. It was penned by someone whose name echoed in distant corners of my memory, an old flame who had once ignited passion within me before reality extinguished those flames. My voice trailed off as emotions surged through me like waves crashing onto shore. Memories flooded back, moments filled with laughter and dreams shared late into starry nights long gone by. Do you miss him? He asked gently. I looked up at him then, his gaze held both curiosity and understanding, a reflection of what lay beneath our own complicated connection. It's not about missing him, I replied slowly, each word felt heavy on my tongue. It's about wondering if I ever truly chose for myself or if everything just happened because it was expected. Silence enveloped us again as we both processed what lay ahead, the uncertainty looming larger than ever before. Maybe we should take that weekend getaway, he suggested suddenly. His eyes sparkled with hope amidst uncertainty swirling around us both like fog on an early morning street corner in Portland. The idea resonated deep within me, a chance to escape everything for just a little while, to breathe freely without judgment or consequences weighing down every decision made thus far. But even as excitement bubbled beneath surface tension lurking nearby, my husband's face flickered across my mind unbidden. His recent efforts no longer felt trivial but rather poignant reminders of all that was good yet complicated about our lives intertwined together still despite everything unraveling around us now too fast for comfort. Before I could respond fully though, a sound shattered our moment once more. Footsteps echoed outside drawing nearer until suddenly they stopped completely just beyond doorframe blocking exit entirely leaving no room left for escape. My heart raced anew. Panic surged through veins coursing wildly as realization dawned upon both of us simultaneously. The unmistakable silhouette standing outside belonged not just anyone but rather someone intimately familiar. My husband himself poised ready to confront whatever awaited beyond thresholds separating two worlds colliding headlong into chaos threatening tear apart lives already teetering precariously close edge cliff waiting inevitable plunge downward spiraling into darkness below. What do we do? He breathed urgently beside me. His voice barely above whisper yet laced with urgency echoing sentiments mirrored within myself too now caught between two men both holding pieces heart slowly breaking apart each passing second ticking away precious moments left before confrontation erupted fully, unleashing fury long pent up waiting patiently until now finally unleashed. We face him, I whispered back barely audible yet resolute despite fear clawing way upward threatening swallow whole every ounce courage left behind. And so we stood there together side by side facing uncertain future ahead, knowing full well consequences awaited us, all lurking just beyond threshold, waiting strike when least expected, catching unaware those caught unaware, navigating treacherous waters ahead. Uncertain paths unfolding rapidly, leading somewhere unforeseen, entirely different destination altogether, perhaps forever altering course, lives intertwined, already deeply connected yet fragile enough break easily once confronted head-on. Consequences looming large ahead, threatening unravel everything built carefully over time spent together, fostering connection stronger than anticipated yet equally fragile enough shatter completely if faced directly without caution taken beforehand. The air hung heavy with an unspoken tension, as if the walls of the abandoned house were holding their breath. I could hear my heart pounding in my chest, a frantic rhythm that echoed the uncertainty swirling around us. My mind raced, caught between the warmth of our shared moments and the cold reality of what lay ahead. "Do you think he saw us?" I whispered, glancing at him, searching for reassurance in his eyes. The flickering light from a nearby window cast shadows across his face, making it hard to read his expression. "I don't know," he replied quietly, his voice barely above a murmur. "But we need to be careful. If he finds out..." The weight of those words settled heavily between us. The thrill of our secret meetings had been intoxicating, but now it felt like a noose tightening around my neck. I had never intended for things to spiral this far, yet here we were, two people entwined in a web of choices that threatened to unravel everything. Just then, the distant sound of tires crunching on gravel reached my ears. A chill ran down my spine as I recognized the familiar rumble of my husband's car approaching. Panic surged through me, and I instinctively took a step back, glancing toward the door as if it could somehow provide an escape. "What do we do?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly as fear clawed at my insides. "Stay calm," he urged softly, reaching out to touch my arm gently. "We can't let him see you here." His touch sent a shiver through me, comforting yet fraught with danger. This was not just about us anymore. This was about everything I had built and everything I stood to lose. I took a deep breath and nodded, though uncertainty gnawed at me. "I'll hide," I said quickly, scanning the room for any place that might offer concealment. "Behind that old wardrobe," he suggested urgently, pointing toward a dark corner where dust clung to forgotten memories. I moved swiftly, slipping behind the wardrobe just as the front door creaked open. My heart raced as footsteps echoed through the empty space, a sound that felt both familiar and foreign all at once. "Hello? Is anyone here?" My husband's voice rang out, laced with confusion and concern. I held my breath as I pressed myself against the cold wood of the wardrobe. It felt like an eternity before he stepped further inside, his silhouette framed by sunlight filtering through broken windows. "What are you doing here?" he called out again, more insistently this time. I could hear him moving around the room, searching for something or someone. My pulse quickened with every creak of floorboards beneath his feet. What would happen if he found me? Would all our secrets come crashing down in an instant? "Just checking on some things," he finally replied after what felt like forever. The nonchalance in his tone did little to ease my anxiety, it only deepened my sense of dread. As he turned away from me and began moving toward another room in search of answers or perhaps closure for something he couldn't quite articulate, I risked a glance at him from behind the wardrobe's edge. He looked so different than when we had first met, aged by worry and time spent apart rather than together. My thoughts drifted back to our earlier days, the laughter we shared over coffee on lazy weekends or quiet evenings spent reading side by side on the couch, and it struck me how far we had drifted apart since then. The realization hit hard. Somewhere along this journey into isolation and loneliness, we had lost each other amidst life's distractions. A sudden noise pulled me back into reality, footsteps approaching once more, but not from my husband's direction this time. They were far heavier and more deliberate than before. "Hey! Is anyone in here?" A new voice called out, a man's voice filled with authority that sent chills racing down my spine. My breath caught in my throat as I strained to listen closely while still hidden behind the wardrobe doors that felt like they were closing in on me with every passing moment. I heard something, maybe it was just rats. My husband's voice carried back toward me, now tinged with irritation rather than concern. "Let's check upstairs," came the response from outside, the newcomer clearly unconvinced by my husband's casual dismissal. Panic surged anew within me. There was no time left to think or plan an escape route now that two men were prowling through this abandoned house looking for whatever secrets lay hidden within its walls, including mine. I pressed myself deeper into shadowy corners, hoping desperately they wouldn't look too closely or think twice about investigating further into places long forgotten by everyone else but us. Their presence alone enough to rattle even seasoned hearts like mine who thrived on silence rather than chaos. As they began heading toward the staircase leading upward into darkness above where memories lingered still untouched by time itself, I could only hope fate would grant me one last chance before everything unraveled completely beyond repair. Suddenly there was a loud crash followed by muffled voices drifting closer together, their conversation growing louder as they approached nearer still until finally breaking through barriers erected long ago, separating past from present realities, colliding head-on without mercy whatsoever. "I swear I heard something," the newcomer insisted again while searching frantically around corners looking for signs indicating life still existed within these walls despite their current disrepair. Then silence fell heavy once more, leaving only echoes reverberating throughout empty spaces stretching wide open beneath faded beams overhead where shadows danced wildly under flickering lights illuminating nothing but memories best left buried forevermore. Moments stretched endlessly until finally, just when it seemed all hope was lost, a glimmer appeared beyond shadows cast across deserted rooms, beckoning forth new possibilities, waiting patiently outside, waiting patiently beyond reach, yet tantalizingly close enough grasp if only courage remained steadfast against mounting odds stacked high against us all. And just like that, a choice presented itself. Embrace change or retreat back into comfort where safety lingered faintly, still holding fast despite everything threatening collapse around us, both leaving nothing behind except regret lingering ever-present, haunting dreams unfulfilled. With one last glance exchanged between us, words unspoken hanging thickly between breaths shared, I knew whatever happened next would alter everything irrevocably, shaping futures far beyond imagination could ever conceive, leaving nothing untouched forevermore. The air was thick with tension as I stood frozen in the dim light of the abandoned house, my heart racing. The sound of my husband's footsteps echoed off the peeling walls, each step a reminder of the life I had built and the secrets I had woven into its fabric. My mind raced, caught between the two worlds that had collided so violently in this moment. "What are you doing here?" he asked, voice steady but laced with confusion. The sight of him sent a jolt through me. His familiar face now felt foreign, a stark contrast to the warmth I had sought elsewhere. I stammered, glancing at my neighbor, who stood just behind me, his expression unreadable. The weight of our shared secret pressed down like a heavy blanket, suffocating and undeniable. Before I could gather my thoughts, my husband stepped inside further, his eyes darting between us. "I came looking for you. You said you were going to be gardening." His gaze hardened as he took in our surroundings, the dust-covered floor strewn with remnants of forgotten lives. "We were just exploring," I managed to say, but even the words felt hollow. "Exploring," he repeated incredulously. "In an abandoned house?" I could see the gears turning in his mind. Doubt flickered across his face as he processed what he was witnessing. "What's going on?" My neighbor shifted uneasily beside me, his presence felt both comforting and perilous. The truth hung in the air like an unsaid confession, waiting to be unleashed. "I was helping her," he finally spoke up, his voice calm yet firm. "With her garden." The lie slipped out so easily it startled me. But it was only half a lie, we had started there before everything spiraled out of control. "Helping her?" My husband's tone dripped with skepticism as he crossed his arms over his chest. In a place like this? The irony wasn't lost on me. This house had become a sanctuary for our hidden moments, a place where laughter mingled with whispered dreams and unspoken desires. Now it felt like a trap. "Let's just go home," I urged softly, desperate to defuse the situation before it escalated any further. The last thing I wanted was to drag him into this mess. "Home?" He laughed bitterly, shaking his head as if the word itself held some absurdity that made him question reality. "You think we can just go home after this?" The silence that followed was deafening. Every second stretched painfully as we stood there, three people caught in an intricate web of emotions and choices that threatened to unravel at any moment. "I didn't mean for you to find out like this," I confessed quietly, feeling vulnerability wash over me like cold water. "Then how did you mean for me to find out?" His voice rose slightly, frustration spilling over into anger. "By coming home late? By pretending everything is fine while you're off," he trailed off, unable to finish the sentence that hung heavy between us. "I never wanted to hurt you," I said softly, tears pricking at my eyes despite my best efforts to remain composed. "But you did," he shot back sharply. "You've been lying." The accusation stung more than any physical blow could have. Guilt gnawed at my insides as I searched for words that could mend what felt irreparably broken. "I thought," my voice faltered again as another wave of emotion crashed over me, regret mingled with longing for something different than what I'd settled for. "Thought what? That you could have your cake and eat it too?" He shook his head in disbelief, anger giving way to hurt that cut deeper than any sharp retort could convey. "No. It wasn't like that." The desperation in my voice surprised even me. All semblance of calm had evaporated under pressure. My neighbor took a step closer but remained silent, allowing us space while still standing guard against whatever storm might come next. But nothing prepared us for what happened next. A loud crash from outside shattered our fragile bubble of confrontation and sent us all jumping slightly at its suddenness. "What was that?" My husband's eyes darted toward the door instinctively while mine widened in alarm at the unexpected interruption. Before anyone could respond or react appropriately, a figure burst through the doorway behind us silhouetted against fading light, a friend from our neighborhood who often stopped by unannounced but never before intruded on such an intimate moment. "What's going on here?" she demanded sharply upon seeing us huddled together in what must have looked suspiciously intimate from her perspective. The tension palpable enough to slice through air thick with unresolved emotions and unspoken truths lingering uncomfortably between breaths shared moments ago. Caught completely off guard by her presence, the three of us exchanged glances filled with uncertainty and dread as realization dawned. We were no longer alone in this tangled web we'd woven together, and whatever happened next would change everything irrevocably.